Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
Hi, this is Brian, and it's sad because we're in the last, it's like any vacation you go on. It's vacations are the same when you're winding down your last couple of days of it, and you're anxious to get home, but you're also like kind of trying to make the most of the last 2 days. And I think we picked possibly one of the most interesting horror franchises ever made. And I don't think that's too bold of a statement because it is quite unique.
Yeah, I would almost dare say it's probably one that not a lot of people have seen.
No, I think you're right. I think because of its weird availability. Like,
Yes.
It's only available on Amazon. It's only for rent. You can't buy a physical copy of it. The first one, though, however, is on Tubi and I think some other places. But for some reason, it's like some weird Amazon exclusive. There's no they just get released without any kind of fanfare and they just appear. It's very unique. And of course, if you haven't figured out by that description, we're talking about the Blackwell Ghost, one of Jeff Whitmire, our good friend, one of his favorites. And I've been holding off to watch them all because I knew we were going to do this Slaycation. So I have a unique perspective where Tim is kind of binged them, but he binged them, I think, before 8 came out, right? You binged the first 7 and then you got to watch 8.
Yeah, I think I watched. It might have even been 6.
Oh, so you were a couple. Okay. See,
and I watched 7 and 8 as they came out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. See, so I haven't watched any, and it's funny though. Julie had watched the first one though, and she was watching it, and she told me, she says, "Oh, I'm watching this really cool documentary," and I'm like, "Oh, what's it called?" She's like, "The Blackwell Ghost." I said, "Oh, that's not a real documentary." She goes, "It's not?" She goes, "It looks like it's pretty real because," and I'll explain as we start discussing them. I'll explain why. It's because really nothing happens in it. Honestly, it's like very straightforward and kind of. I'm not going to say dull and boring because it's not. It's just there's not a lot of tricks to it. Like this guy Turner Clay. He is playing the ultimate long game, and I feel like he's got he's very like quiet about what's coming out. At least I never see stuff coming out, never see things about it. I mean, he's got there's a Facebook page and he's got a lot of big fans of it. I just don't think there's a lot of like they treat it as if it's real. They're still playing that Blair Witch long game on this.
Yeah,
thing.
there's this whole this is a fascinating, like, this Turner Clay guy is fascinating because he's never admitted that these are not real.
Right.
And you will see Reddit forums about, is this real? Is this not real? And it gets even weirder because in the series his wife dies.
Yeah.
And we don't know if that's his real wife or if that's she was an actor. And
she's in other
movies.
She was in other movies, so there was.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously I fall on the side that.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely it's a movie. There's not and there are people there. It's funny because I've never seen a movie where people have gone down such deep rabbit holes to find out things like they researched. They're like, well, look at this house that he went to investigate. He owned it the whole time, and he didn't buy it, And then they found out, and they're like, yeah, but his wife really died. And they're like, but it's probably not real. And they're like, you think this actress would just throw away her career to hide? I'm like, she doesn't have much of a career. She's been in like 2 other movies. I said,
they get these arguments. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I'm on the side, just for all clarity, I'm on the side. These are 100% fictional.
Oh, I want,
made.
Yeah, 100%.
This is a filmmaker that's doing like Brian said, this is a long con. Try to keep people on the road, and he's doing a good job according to Reddit because there's still people that still question whether these are real or not. I don't buy it for a second. I think these are all like brilliant as they are. They're still fictional.
My only question is are they? Do you even and I know this is going to sound weird, but do you even classify this as movies? Because they're very short.
They're usually about an
They're
hour.
almost like TV series. I think the longest one is an hour and like 14 minutes. So it's almost like, and they all end up usually saying to be continued at the end. They seem like they're like almost like TV special documentaries, which was his intention.
You could see this on Netflix as like a Netflix series, and it's like 8 episodes of the Blackwell Ghost, and they would not be out of place because they could fit into that format. They're no longer than a Game of Thrones episode.
Right.
You could basically see this as one long continuous story if you wanted to, and that's how he seems to be releasing them. He just puts them out, in dribbles.
And the one thing is weird is it's so funny because the Blackwell Ghost really is like, it's the first one, and then it goes so off onto a different like trajectory
completely
that I'm like,
different trajectory.
yeah, like I mean, it gets into the point of where now this guy is like, and we'll go through the episodes the best we can because there are a lot of them are very similar. So and I watched them all in a row, like in the last 2 weeks. So, but even then, it's like it's hard to remember which one is which things. Like I remember, like the sixth one is where I think where's wife you find his wife passed away. I guess the fifth one is when they had their first child. And so there's like his life progresses in there and things happen, but he gets like roped up into this crime thing because the story's not even done. It's like there's so much to the story still.
The series turns from a paranormal haunt investigation into literally a serial killer murder mystery.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, they're both like it's really interesting. That's why it's like when you hear my rankings, you're going to probably be shocked, but it's probably because I just like the way the story's going, and it's it still manages to like have that horror element, but like I mean, and what's interesting about this series is I feel like they get better and stronger as it goes along, because like the first one and he is like, well, I guess we'll touch on the first one, which is just the Blackwell Ghost. The first one is why I think a lot of people thought it was documentaries, because really there's no tricks. There's nothing happens. There's no weird effects. There's really nothing going on in that one from I remember. And it's almost like kind of flat. And it's kind of like you can almost see he's disappointed. But but that also makes it super realistic, because it's not like these ghost hunter shows where, granted, I'm like on Tim and I are in the same level. We're kind of like skeptics, but we're like want to believe, and we kind of like, but like we're also on the skeptical side, like, well, I mean, and what and nothing, those ghost shows where people are like, oh my God, what's that? Like kind of thing, and all that.
Like you hear some garbled radio static, they go, oh yeah, he just said get out, and I'm like, where are you hearing that from? I don't understand. Anybody can hear
playing
it.
Yeah. And this one, they kind of like, well, and like this one is like, dare I say, so realistic in that manner that it's like, like, okay, maybe you're this would probably be mostly what you see, like if you did like a ghost hunt yourself, you'd
honestly, there's nothing in the Blackwell Ghost, the first movie, that there's probably been more quote unquote evidence on actual ghost hunter shows than what was in this movie. That's literally how subtle it is,
like
in terms of,
and it's not like Paranormal Activity. Now, granted, if you notice one thing though, in the earlier ones, not so much in the end, in the later ones, because I think when the story picks up, you can only like drag people along for so far without keeping more excitement. But it almost like hidden in the way this is it is the still semi kind of like found footage formula in there where there's like slow, and at the very end, like I think it's like from like 2, 3, 4, 5, they're like that, where it kind of like at the end, like a whole bunch of stuff happens right towards the end, and it's like a slow burn all the way up to it. But at the same time, the whole series is this one long, tremendous slow burn, and like I wonder if this guy has this all mapped out in his head. He's like, oh, I got 60 episodes of this thing coming. You have no idea what's coming,
but
and
you
don't know what it is.
He doesn't talk about this. Like, you can't. This dude's like a mystery, and he wants to keep it that way. He's not like on social media. He intentionally keeps these things so vague that you don't know really where it's going. But I will have to say, he's a tremendously good actor in terms of making you believe that he's this real dude out here doing this stuff, and not a filmmaker, but like he's genuinely just documenting this stuff in front of the camera. He comes off as I guess the best example I could give is maybe like a popular YouTuber that is not, you could tell they're not, and I'm not talking about like the influencer, like ones that are real showy. I'm talking about just like the normal people, YouTubers that are just like just doing it on their own. He comes across as that authentic in the way he records these, which is not, I don't think is necessarily, I think you kind of have to have that innate gift to be able to pull off that kind of charisma. And he does, like he nails just the everyday average guy, and he might very well be the everyday average guy. And he's just playing himself.
Yeah, and he's meta too, because like in the movies, like later on, you see like the posters, the other films that he did, and he's treating it like he's giving you, like he's like, I'm making this next documentary, and his reactions are funny, like when he like gets involved with the police guy, and he's like, he's like, do I get a badge? Do I get a badge? And he gets like this excitement, and it's like so interesting how they do it. Like it's like everything is so the same kind of thing, and every so often he has these like little. He'll have music he'll add to the background, so he like cheats a little there but then again, it's a faux doc so much as it's not really found footage per se.
Right.
And he's got like, and they always have those nice little aerial like drone shots that they have in the beginning, and to make it cool, because that's another thing though that's like when you think about it, as a nice subtle touch, because that's what documentaries do. And so he's playing this really good. So like, yes, I guess it's really hard to talk about these in like movie per movie, because so many of the same things like kind of happen in it. Like, so the first one, it's basically like pretty straightforward. Basically, him and his wife, they go off, and it's funny. Like, I wonder what happened to his plane, because in the beginning, the first couple of movies, he has a plane that he flies around, and then he just drives the places.
I want to know what happens to his kids, like when he's off at this house.
Well, he drops them off at his mom's most of the time. They'll say he usually drops his mom off. Like they'll drop it off. Like he'll call his mom, and he'll be like, he's like, hey, can you take the kids for a minute? I gotta go down to Florida again. And sorry for my terrible accent. I'm trying to mimic him because he's got a very soothing voice, very enjoyable voice.
Well,
and I think funny. He was kind of like in the beginning, the first two, he was kind of getting on my nerves a little because of some of the things he does. But then I saw someone post it, and it's true. It's like the more he goes on, the more likable he becomes. Actually, he becomes more and more likable as the series progresses. And some
really
people
does.
I saw like said the opposite, where they said like the series itself like drops off. They go, oh, I don't. This series went off the rails now. It's not. And then I'm like, I said, you are not. If you think that, you're not looking at this series the way it's meant to look at. Like, you have to, you're closing yourself off to the appreciation of what this guy is doing. Like, he is playing us all like we're a ball of putty. And I love it, because I love the fact that, like, and granted, I almost wish I could go back and watch them like as they were released and then get that anticipation. Now I only have the anticipation for the next one, like for 9, which is definitely coming out. I know for a fact.
He releases it generally every year. He releases a new one every year. Sometimes 2 a year.
Yeah, I think because of the pandemic, I think 2 came out 1 year instead.
Yeah.
But like, but other than that, it's like, and you notice that he didn't include the pandemic. Like, there's never, like, he's not wearing a mask in any shots. Like some movies will try and make the time, but really it's usually himself there by himself. So why would he wear? Like, it's rare he's ever.
He doesn't even mention
interacting with a person. Yeah, he doesn't mention it, which is kind of a little odd. But I think that's maybe like, but that could mean he may have filmed all these. Maybe he's filmed them all already, and he's just now piecing them together.
Know?
You won't know. That's the thing. He may have filmed like 30 hours of this already, and he's giving us little pieces of it. We don't know.
I wonder how much he makes off of these things. But here's the thing.
Well, enough to have a really nice house. I mean, granted, he's in, where is he, Arkansas or Alabama? I don't know. I'm sure the cost of living is not what it is in, say, California, or New York. But he has like a trailer. He had enough money to be able to buy a second house from the documentary.
If it is his house, we have no idea.
Well, no, that's the thing. They did say he owned. I think that house he owns. He's owned always.
So people have done the research
Reddit
on
people
that
found.
one.
Whether that big fancy one is his, I don't know. Maybe that's the one he's renting, or I don't know.
I mean, I can see why people would say the series dropped off, because it gets away from the paranormal and really gets away from traditional horror. It gets into way more true crime than it does actual, which I still think is horrifying, because I like true crime. I think that's scarier than horror movies. But
yeah,
so I appreciated the true crime angle, but I could see if you're in for the ghost stuff, and literally the Blackwell Ghost has no relevance almost at all to the later movies.
I mean, unless it all circles back somehow,
which it could at some point.
Which that's the thing with this guy, you gotta stick with him because, like, it's well, I think that's why I think he might have filmed a lot already, and he's just releasing them piecemeal because I have a feeling like, like I feel like it all ties back to the Blackwell Ghost and the fact that this led him to where he was, and it led him to the belief of the supernatural, and why he was able to set up all those things. Like, you know what? I know Tim, we were just talking about this before we got on the episode, how we would just break this up into two, but I don't know how you can. I think you have to almost talk about the series as a whole.
I was just thinking the same thing as we were originally going to record this as 2 separate episodes. I'm like, if I do that, each episode is going to be 10 minutes long. I don't know how else to talk about the series, but as one long thing. I do want to go through just to give for people who haven't seen it, give it a little bit of structure to how these are laid out. So the first movie, Blackwell Ghost, that one came out in 2017. And this one, he and his wife, I think it's his wife, and they're married at the point. I mean, fictionally.
Yeah, they're married at this point.
So he and his wife, this guy goes out he finds this haunted this house is supposedly haunted, and they go in. They agree. I think the owner is leaving on vacation, so he agrees they can stay over and investigate. And then it's very much a traditional found footage ghost hunt.
Just laugh when he goes, honey, if I don't come back downstairs, call the police.
Yeah.
The police are gonna come in against the ghost. That part always cracks me up. How many times he wants to call the police.
Which I thought this one was great. It's a very, I guess, formulaic. I mean, it is what it is. But for what it is, I think it was really, really well done.
Yeah.
Then when
and like my rankings will like I will defend my rankings when you hear them, and they're very shocking probably for people that know me the way I rank things.
They are shocking. Trust me. Blackwell Ghost 2, he goes back to the same haunted house to capture more footage. I don't remember a whole lot about this one. I did not, full disclosure, I did not rewatch this series for this podcast. I should have,
expensive to do it.
It was number one, it was expensive because I'd have to rent them all again. Number two,
I think it was like $50 I spent renting them all.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that again, and I just watched them fairly recently. I mean, this hasn't been too long ago that I watched these.
Yeah.
And then, and third, it's like, how much am I really going to get out of? I mean, I know this year, like, how much am I going to get out of watching some of these that are just very similar to other ones? So I don't remember a whole lot about the Blackwell Ghost 2, other than he went back to the same house to continue investigating.
Right.
Now, Blackwell Ghost 3 completely changes things up. So they leave the old location behind. He ends up going to this house down in Florida. And this is where the whole series goes in a completely different direction. This is what starts the entire series going in a new direction. He goes to this new haunted house down in Florida, which is a really interesting house. Really, really small little, like, was it like by a lake or a...
Yeah, it's like right on the lake and supposedly in the middle of nowhere, but it's got like a boathouse. It's got its own lake. Like,
it's really kind of neat. It's not like a fancy house, but it's like, when you have like those beach cottages that are down at the beach, it's like, it's not a fancy house, but it's kind of nice because of the location.
And it's set up for his documentaries. Like, it's so perfectly, because camera-wise, aesthetically, like you could, like where he always sets up, you can see the kitchen where he's sitting and down the long hallway. And it's like, it's really set up. Whether he like happened, that was his real house, that's the debate. A lot of people say, oh, well, he owns it, because eventually later in the series he buys this house from the owner, and the owner like seems to like be cool with him just going whenever he wants anyway. Like, it's like I guess it's an Airbnb,
which I always wondered, like, in real life, where is this house? Because in the movies, it's like he has to take this long drive to this house, like this is an extended trip. But I'm wondering, like in real life, is it like, right? Does he live there now, or like,
I mean, because he had a plane and then he fly, but and like now in the later versions, he's like living still in Alabama or Arkansas in his big fancy house with his kids, and then he has to drive to this house, but it seems like it's Like, I feel like originally he said it was like took him all day to drive there. Like, oh, it was like a 13-hour drive. I'm tired. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know how that guy never sleeps. He never looks groggy. I did see someone make a joke about that. Like, they're like, how is this guy never groggy? Like, he's like never sleeps in these. He's always getting woken up. He's making these long drives.
Yeah.
He's like, he's like, when, and then he's like, got to take care of his kids, and he's got to like, I mean, I guess at one point, I guess in the earlier movies they established he was a director. He made zombie movies or something as a
right.
living.
Yes, that's true. There was he decided to just start doing this because he wasn't making it as a filmmaker, making like fictional zombie movies. So that's why he went into this this whole thing.
Yeah. So I guess where is it? That's where I guess we're in 3. I think
so that was 3. Right, 3 is where it took the sudden turn. Then 4, he's basically is a continuation of 3, where he's continuing to probe. Well, I don't want to give too much away. I'm not going to give what the synopsis says, but some events happen in 3.
Yeah.
And then he ends up getting entangled in this big puzzle that's going to go through the rest of the series now.
Yeah.
And this is where it really starts to pick up in terms of getting away from the haunting stuff and into the more of the true crime serial killer mystery. And I remember liking 4 quite a bit. I can't remember if there was something.
Yeah, 4. I think because 4 was the first one that really like started really seeing some like stuff you were kind of waiting for the first 3 movies, kind of. And then it was like, and it was also giving you that new lore also. So you kind of had like, you really, that was, I think, where the series kind of started to turn to a place. Like, you're like, and that's the one I remember that got me, that I'm like, that's where it hooked me. Like, I knew I was going to watch them all anyway. It wasn't like I was going to stop. But like when I got 4, I was like, that's where I was like, okay, I can't wait to watch the next one. I can't wait to watch the next one. I can't wait to watch. Like 4 is where it really hit me.
3 changed the direction in terms of the location, but it was still very much a haunted house.
Yeah.
Set up like investigating a haunt thing, whereas 4 is the one that actually probably really defined the rest of the narrative, because that's where he got into this whole serial killer mystery.
And what was crazy is like the supposed like paranormal stuff was literally like the most simple thing you could do was just like things of slamming and like letters scattering on the
or
the
phone
thing,
ringing.
And read them. Or the phone ringing with sound effects, which then twists into something that I've seen debated about a couple of times, whether is that like a flash forward, flashback kind of weird twist with involving his wife, and there's just a whole bunch of weird stuff that goes on. And sorry, we're gonna spoil some stuff here. So if you haven't watched this series yet, I mean, I know I said this late now, but basically, maybe we should put a disclaimer, Tim, like on the actual release of the episode. Just say, if you have not watched the series yet, do not listen to these episodes until you watch a series. But so there's a lot of twists to that, but it's really like just a lot of like but when you think about it, it works better than any effect of like seeing like, oh wait, was that a shadow in there? And there are shadows, and it's funny, like he usually waits like his formula, like in the first that batch was like the last like 3 minutes of the movie, he'd kind of recap and look at some of the footage, and you'd see something, and he'd be like, "Oh, look, there's a shadow there. Oh my God, look at that image on the screen." And he always would say the same thing. It's like, I didn't notice until I went back to my footage, and I noticed this. And it's like, and it was like, and the same with you, because you watched the footage live and you didn't catch it. So it was kind of neat how he did that.
Like the letters spelled on the table, you don't notice, and then he goes back and he shows where it spelled something out, but you didn't notice it the first time.
Right, and and then it like turned into. Then he realized eventually it was it anagrams. Is that the term?
Mm-hmm.
Like and that stuff he started playing around with, and it was like, and it's funny as he got like more and more like toys to play with. Like he eventually hooks up this speak and spell, like to like read stuff, and that was really cool because that actually where it was kind of creepy in the last couple, where it would like basically it would start going danger, and you're like, and he realized like kind of mid film that the ghosts were there not to hurt him, but always to kind of help him, always the kind of thing. And and I guess so at the end in the 5th one was where he basically, I guess his wife is like about to give birth, and he's still off on these things, and she flat out lays him. She's fine. A bad husband.
This is like the wife trouble episode. I keep calling them episodes because they feel more like an episode.
They
than
do,
a movie.
That's why I said that. I'm like, you can arguably say, are these movies or these like
this one is
episodes?
I remember this. This is when he starts getting in trouble for his frequent visits down to what they call the Lightfoot house, which is the one in Florida. And so he starts getting in trouble, and he's really like questioning. He starts questioning what he's doing. You know, like, am I destroying my family over this stupid mystery that I'm caught up in? And then 6, this is the one that he kind of brings it back to it's almost like another like quick change in direction. This is the one right when he is like back at his own house.
Yeah, and you find out like right when it opens that his wife passed away. They had a second child, and she passed away. And I'm like, when I saw it, I was like, what? Like my jaw like dropped. I'm like, oh my God, because his wife's like not in it a lot after the first one, but she's a likable character kind of thing.
Exactly.
She's in there.
And it did kind of hit you like suddenly. Oh my God! Even though you kind of know like it's not real, but it kind of feels real. So you're like, oh my God!
Why? Because of the way you've taken the journey with him at that point, you've spent at this point 5 hours with the guy, in terms in movie time, but like you felt like, you've been there through his life. And I think that's what's so brilliant about this is that they add these little life things in it to the point of where it's like a sneaky way to get to know this guy. And you start to, that's where he becomes, you really start to like him and kind of root for him, and you kind of want to see what he's doing next, and you get intrigued at what he's doing. So and at that point, then the mystery really, like, I think the two things really converge in the 6th one. So it's like they really bring back the supernatural, and it comes back heavy in this one because heavy. Like he gets these mysterious packages, and like his wife's keyboard that she had years ago, and they start playing the song, and then at the end, I mean, this is a major spoiler. At the end, you see the shadow of his wife standing there, and it gets really, really like, personal to him, and it's like, and like really grabs your like heartstrings at that point because the poor guy, he keeps having these images of his wife with his 2 kids, and that's all they wanted was and it's so sad to think that like she only got to spend like a couple of months with her son, the second born, and and it really just drives him there to realize like, and that's where it's like if you think about like just one of the hallmarks of this series, is like you really see where he's like, I think he even says a line of something about, I got to go back to this really, like, I don't care if anyone believes me or not, but I feel like I need to go back to this paranormal thing because I feel like this is a sign, and you could tell he just wants to talk to his wife. It brings him closer to his wife at some level because it started with her and their journey, and, now it's all intertwining. And at the same time, it's like the whole, like the crime part is still involved in it because he's like getting caught up with this police officer in Florida, and they literally, basically, I don't remember if it's this one or the one before or the one, but he gets deputized in there.
Yes, he gets deputized as part of the investigation.
He gets evidence sent to him, and he's like really in there. And it's funny too because he basically towards the later like in the last one, he like totally like, he's so fed up with this all, but because he tells he wants to get there, but he's fed up, and he curses out his like cop friend that he always talks to on the phone. And it's neat how they always blur the cop's voice out as if it was a real documentary.
Yeah,
too,
it's great how they do it. I mean, and I will tell you, even in the earlier ones, when he's interviewing some of the townspeople, like I think it was like the 3rd or 4th one, where he's interviewing that one guy, like he still comes across as so believable. Like, I don't know where he gets these people to, but I've always said, we've heard us say it in this Summer Slaycation that inauthentic acting can really take you out of a found footage, and this movie does not have that. Like, it's really, even the people he talks to outside of,
or like
himself,
that son he becomes friends with,
the son, like he sounds completely believable. Like I could totally buy that this guy is the real deal. And I mean, that takes a certain level of talent to be able to get that performance out of people that maybe aren't actual actors, or maybe it's easier because they aren't actual actors, because they just they seem authentic because they are authentic, kind of thing. I don't know.
So and so like, and now it's like, we're kind of like in the, especially when you get to the 7th and 8th, it's like Now you're like full on, like you're seeing like paranormal stuff. You're seeing real life creepy crap of this guy like following him and sending him things
Well,
and
yeah,
like
like at this
totally
point,
playing around with him. Like,
he's essentially being threatened by this serial killer at this point.
yeah.
Not, I won't say threatened.
Well, no, he won't get, yeah, because he actually
being
goes,
toyed with.
yeah, because he's toying, because he actually at one point, like he basically is finding these mysteries and he's like finding these little like things of where they're locating all the day. Like he's helping the police locate the bodies through this guy. Is basically sending them little like things like to, that part has not been revealed as to why yet. I do have an interesting theory though. I'll tell you about later, towards the end. But so and a lot of stuff is going on where he's like basically being stalked by this guy, but he kind of knows that this guy doesn't think he's gonna kill him because he's like he could have killed me a million times because there's literally footage you see where the guy's standing behind him, and that is some
like he could have
creepy
killed
stuff.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, he could have easily killed him because he's like basically finds out he's been like he's hacked into it. Like he got caught up in a phishing scam, which is so realistic for a guy like that he would do because he's so into it. Because most people that are skeptics will be skeptic about everything, but most people that want to be believers will believe that everything. So he gets that link saying, "Oh, you need to sign in here again." So he just falls for it and goes right into it because why you think why otherwise? He goes, I paid for the service. That's what he said. He goes, I paid for the service. Why wouldn't it be legit? Kind of thing. And he falls for the scam that so many people fall for. The guy basically hacks into his camera. He can unlock his doors. He finds that the guy put one of those trackers. And one of the one that made me actually kind of laugh out loud, the guy goes, hey, this guy put a tracker on my car. And he goes, well, and the cop's like, how does he know it's a tracker? He goes, it's his tracker right on it. It reminded me of like Franklin almost. Remember, I gave it to you, like that. So it's like, and so now it's to the point of where he's like, and now this guy's getting pissed, and he's like, you know what? Like Turner Clay's like, I'm gonna get this guy. He goes, he doesn't know that I found this yet, so I am gonna like lead him to this thing, and he goes off to this creepy. I don't know how they found this location, but that weird creepy island he goes to and that weird like location. And then he finds the guy, he knows the guy's in the house, and he still manages to sneak into the house without him finding where he was and leaving him another package. But it's all so crazy. And then basically, and that's why the eighth one I love so much because it goes it's like full blast. Like you're getting like this point, like it's like all bets are off. Everything's heating up. The paranormal stuff, the criminal stuff, they're all going on. And then he basically like when you think it's over. Like the eighth one literally ends with the cop calling him out, which you thought was done because he cursed at the cop and they were done. He didn't want to deal with it anymore. And he basically goes, he's not done yet kind of thing. And that's how the eighth one ends. You're like, God damn it. And after this guy still got me sucked into this.
He does a good job of ending them on cliffhangers. And I think the reason this series is so effective is you find out every single thing in this movie at the same time that Turner Clay finds out.
Yes.
So it feels like you are the one solving this mystery. It's always like if you were doing an escape room with your friends and you're uncovering it at the same time he is. There's nothing in these movies that you're not aware of that he's not aware of. So it becomes so intimate. It feels like the only thing I can compare it to is certain podcasts I've listened to, like true crime podcasts specifically, where they're doling out the information in such small bits that you're so wrapped up in this mystery that like you said, you literally cannot wait for the next episode to find out like why did this happen. I'm thinking of like that what's that really famous podcast, true crime podcast that came out many years ago, but
I can't remember it either. I know which one you mean. I just can't think of it.
But it was huge. It blew up, and it was this kind of the same thing where you were just finding out information. Now on the podcast, obviously, the story already was told. It's just you were finding it out. In this case, you don't know the whole story. Only Turner Clay knows the whole story. So you're getting it represented as if you're seeing it as he's discovering it. So it becomes so intoxicatingly like compelling. It is for such a simple, like it drives me crazy that people can do this stuff and do it as well as they do. Because I'm looking at it, I'm going, well, why the hell couldn't I just sit here and film for 2 hours and come up with a cool story and video myself and then like put it on Amazon Prime and just like rake in money. Like why couldn't I do that? It seems simple. Obviously, I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it. It's not as simple as it seems.
Yeah, you know what it reminds me of? Remember the guy, and they made the movie, but the movie just didn't do the whole story justice, even though I enjoyed the movie, the Dear David, you know, that guy, Adam,
Yeah.
whatever, and like, I
Did
forgot
like
his
the
full
Twitter
name.
thing?
Yeah, and my brother was the one, he goes, "Oh my God, have you been following this?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "You gotta look at this guy's Twitter." So I caught in right as it started, like, so it wasn't too far in, and like, literally, he was like, you don't notice that guy, he was a cartoonist, and he basically felt like he had this kid, this ghost of a kid haunting him, and they kind of, I mean, the movie was good. It was the guy that did Anna and the Apocalypse, so I knew I was going to like it at some level, but it didn't capture the same magic that the actual story was capturing if you were reading along and like all these crazy things happening. But that's what this kind of reminded me of. And what's so good is like, you know, it's like since it is once a year and it's in real time almost at some level, where it's like that was the only reason why I had made the comment on the COVID thing, because everything else so felt like you were going along with his journey. You almost expected that would have been a part. He would have said something. He goes, "Well, I can't really go out of the house much anymore, so because you know,
Yeah.
or something like you." I expected something in there about that, that's the only reason why I think maybe he filmed like years of this stuff already, and he's just giving bits and pieces now, and like he's just editing it and boom, editing, boom. I could be wrong. I don't know. He also, you know, like I said, like it's only him in it, so he's not really interacting with many people. So why would there be need to really mention it when it might have taken, honestly, may have taken you out of it a little bit. I don't know, because there's really no. You're kind of in this old
And he may
world
have not
anyway.
wanted to timestamp it either.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, that's another thing, because you don't know when this is taking place. And but like, you know, then the thing I was saying earlier about how it could be a wrap up, like, because you know that phone call like sounds like what it was, you know, like it kind of sounds like his wife in a couple episodes. And he was getting those calls earlier on, so they're thinking like maybe was his wife going back in time to warn him with things. But like, and I think that's what freaked me out about the last couple too, is that whole thing where it's like danger, 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 and he's like, you know, like, oh shoot, this ghost is telling him you got to get out of there. You don't know why, and you don't find out even till later in the movie why. And it's like, it's just so brilliant. Like this guy, I don't know how he did it. Like you said, like it's such a simple thing. Like he's not doing anything that any one of us could not have done. Like you, there's not even like any kind of like creative skill thing. He's literally setting up cameras on places and hiring probably someone to do a drone shot for him to come by. I mean, he might have done it himself, might own a drone. I don't know. But like, it's just the funny thing, you're so invested in this guy's life. And it's like, and I saw people like, well, what kind of father is he really? He's dropping his kids off. I'm like, but you know, honestly, the last two, he has no choice. He's got a guy stalking him. You really would leave your kids in the house?
Yeah, he
No,
knows the
you
guy's
bring your
been in
kids
his
to the
house.
mother's house. Yeah, get your kids out of there. You're in danger. You're being stalked. You don't know what this guy's like. Yeah, he might not want to kill you, but he may want to kill your kids. You don't know.
I just realized that it could be a explanation for the pandemic thing is the Blackwell Ghost came out in 2020. You could argue that was filmed before the pandemic. And
I thought it was 2017 it came out.
Yeah, Blackwell Ghost 5 was 2020.
Oh yeah, 5 was 2020. Yeah.
And then you could argue that one was before the pandemic. And the next one doesn't come out until 2022.
Right.
So you could argue that he completely was stopped investigating due to the pandemic.
Right. Yeah. There's enough inference there. You can just kind of, and for all you know, he might have dropped a little line in there. I don't know. But either way, it's like the stuff he was doing wouldn't have stopped during the pandemic.
Yeah.
You know,
but
like it's not like he was like going into an office job, and then you know they still showed that.
I still think it's interesting though that he. Well, I can't say that because there was a 2-year gap between 7 and 8 as well.
Yeah. Well, because he had doubled up, I think 2022.
Because he had doubled up. Yeah. So
unless you're right, maybe he filmed. Honestly, maybe he filmed 20 to try and make it realistic. He had 6 and 7 already filmed, but to make it realistic, like the pandemic, he kept it. You don't. That's the thing with this guy. Anything's on the table with this guy. You don't know what he's like. Like he could be the most genius filmmaker in our lifetime. Honestly,
I don't
like the way
it drives me up the wall. It literally drives me up the wall, and I know he knows that it drives us up the wall.
Yeah.
Because how could he make like this? I would assume fairly successful series, and yet not basically just like not talk about it. He doesn't
He's
do
off
interviews.
The grid, essentially. He just appears when the movies come out.
He's off the grid. He has a Facebook page to hawk the movies, and that's it. And it's like, and then you just assume one's going to come out every year, and you don't know about it until like right before it comes out, because he doesn't even. It's not like he advertises it months in advance. Like it's
right.
Like I think this last one, the 8, was like weeks before, like maybe a couple weeks before it came out.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like he's like managing to capture everything. Like he's like I would not be shocked if he's got 50 different like login names that he jumps in those message boards and the Reddit feeds to kind of just mess around with people and say stuff. Because I literally think he's managed to capture everything about it. Like he's covered every base. Like, I mean, the one thing he couldn't do, obviously, and this is the one thing where I see a lot of people like, is there basis for it being fake? Or like, if you look up, you Google Blackwell Ghost, you don't see any history on it. There's no such thing. There's none of these names ever appear, except it links you to his documentaries. So, like, I mean, obviously, like, yeah, sure, he could have, I guess, made a whole bunch of fake stories and planted them throughout the years, but like, I mean, really, I don't think that's necessary. I think he's done enough to already capture you and he's got you where he wants you. You know, you're in. If what, like, I can't imagine someone watching this series and going all the way through it and not constantly wanting more. Now, granted, there's going to be a point if he keeps going this way where something has got to have to be. There's got to be an end point at some point, because too many things go on where you're going to eventually say, all right, like, you know, this, you know, we're watching this guy. Okay, something's got to change here. But right now it's not there. I'll tell you, he's not close to it yet. Like, because all I know is I cannot wait till the 9th one. And I watched this, remember, I just watched this all in the span of 2 weeks. So it's like, you know, someone like, I think Jeff has watched them all as they've come out. I think I got to ask him about it. If like he might have watched the first couple and then watched, you know, them back there, because I remember seeing the first one around for a long time, just showing up on Prime and all that stuff, and I kept putting it on my list to watch, and I never watched it because the description is very vague and there's not really any, like, there wasn't really hype about the first one per se. It wasn't until I think it got to like the 3rd and 4th one where really like the hype started building, I think, and people started really saying, hey, you know, started really talking about the series, that where it's got on my radar at least.
Well, here's the crazy thing about this dude is he actually did direct these zombie movies. Like, that's not a lie.
Yeah.
He was a real zombie horror director. And then when he started doing these Blackwell Ghost movies, but you would think somebody that's an actual filmmaker, if they had a successful series like this, would just they'd also be doing other side things, like they'd be doing other projects. Like, not many filmmakers just make this one series of movies and they don't do anything else. Like, how do you have the self-control to this is all you're gonna do? Because I'm gonna release these series and I'm only gonna do one a year. This 1 hour movie once a year as a filmmaker, and then you're not doing anything else.
And honestly, part of me thinks that's why it's released the way it is, like why there's no physical release at home. There's no interviews with this guy anywhere. Nope. It's like he's controlling the entire narrative. He controls everything about this property.
It's a huge long con. It's totally a huge long con.
I want to I'll tell you, whenever this, I just hope I live long enough for where he finally ends it and he starts speaking about it, and I could just go up to him and I want to give this guy a hug. I'm going to say, I don't think I wonder if he appreciates what he's created out there. Like, and it's not, as far as I'm concerned, now that I see it, it's not talked about enough. Like, this thing should be on news stations. Like, people should be reporting this news. Like, you haven't seen this, you've got to see. But I think maybe he's like somehow got it perfectly under the radar, just enough so that like mainstream things don't catch it and pick it up. Like, the horror community knows about it, but even them, they're like, you know, I think he's got them like almost going against each other. You know, like people,
he's got it so mixed up. Like, even we're still, I mean, we believe 100% that this whole thing's completely fictional, but there's still aspects of his story that we're not sure which is true and which is not, which is kind of brilliant. I don't know. I don't like. What's his dude's day job? Like he's not. He can't be making all of his money off these movies. Like what's the deal here?
Yeah, I don't like. We see that's the thing. Like, did Amazon say like, hey, we like your thing, we're gonna give you like $8 million, and you have to make 20 of these. Like,
and if he's listening to
know.
this podcast, he would be laughing his ass off right now.
Yeah, he's probably like, I got those guys. I
mean, because he's got it so lined up. I mean, I don't know. It's such a weird meta thing.
I just hope I live long enough to finally get all my answers. That's all. I want to be at the end of his long con. I want to be there.
Well, I mean,
he's older than us, I think, so maybe we have a chance. But
J.J. Abrams he spends like all these.
Oh, he makes J.J. Abrams look like an amateur. Like,
I know, like he spends like these millions of dollars to craft these mysteries of and the Lost TV show and all this stuff. And like this dude just with one camera and himself as the actor has made this mystery that I'm more intrigued by than anything I've seen on network television.
Yeah, like I want to like he's
incredible.
Like the budget on these must be incredibly small. It's probably the cost
especially
of
if he
cameras.
owns the houses and everything. Yeah,
and he owns the houses. He owns
drone shots.
He probably spends a lot on gas. He probably spends most of the budget is on gasoline, unless the houses. Well, actually, no. Someone did say the house is not where they say it is, so it could be 20 minutes away.
Well, that's what I was saying. I don't believe he's actually driving to Florida.
Yeah.
I think he's probably really close to it. I mean,
that could be his first misstep. It's not believable. Yeah. No, but I mean, just in general, it's like he does like the most basic tricks. Like there's not really any like he like basically refuses to get to like any kind of like most thing you see is like a table flip, I think, right? I think that's it. And then weird shadows and stills,
weird shapes, light figures, and stuff.
And
maybe,
like the letters mixed up and stuff like that.
I can't explain until you've seen this series. Talking about it, I'm telling you, yes, this is a series where nothing happens, and people are going, well, "What the hell fun is that?" You mean just a horror series and nothing really happens? I can't explain to you why it's so compelling. To watch an hour of these movies where nothing really happens, and I'm hooked, completely hooked. I mean, it's just a testament to the guy's talent that he can draw you into this mystery without having to throw special effects and jump scares in your face.
I literally want to start just like compiling a list of questions for the day that we ever maybe get to talk to him for a minute. Because like one of the things I'd be like, how did you come up with the idea? Were you just watching other people's reactions to every other series? Like what? Like how? Like many did you film at once? I've like there was 1,000 questions for this guy I could ask him.
Yeah.
Like and he looks like he'd be like the funnest guy to just go hang out with like at a bar and just like.
Yeah, he's like so down to earth, but like, is he? I don't know. I don't know who the guy is. I
don't think he could fake that. Like I don't care. I don't think he's that good of an actor. He could fake his cool like just his nice guy thing because you could tell like I think he like. Now, whether he redirects it, like maybe he doesn't in real life care about ghosts like he does in the movie or like crime in the movie, but he obviously cares about something, and that's what's in his mind when he does it because he comes off very believable. Like, and it's like he gets choked up and like my favorite thing is like when he does his scared look when he just goes, and he'll be looking at you because he's looking at the camera. So he's kind of like looking at you for approval almost, and it's a thing he repeats throughout the series, and it's so effective because. It's so genuine, or like when he's laying on the couch and he's like, and then the thing will start slamming and you'll see him like jolt up, and I'm like, I mean, it's so real. It's like something about it is just so realistic. The way he like his facial expressions and his like, and when he gets his joy about like figuring out something, and the way he like, or when he figured out like a plan, like he figured out one of the mysteries, and you just see him get so excited, like he's like. Holy God. And then I like that he added that guy like from the message board that's joining in. Like it's almost like he's almost like taking what's really happening, out there about his movies and putting it into his movies.
It's so meta. Yeah. I will say, if you like, I would say for any of you guys that love Netflix true crime docs like I do, this has the very same feel of that, except from a more personal perspective, because instead of like the slick documentary style, it's just this one guy walking around with a camera, but it's the same level of like intrigue from episode to episode that you're like going along with this. I don't know how much else to say about it. I guess we got to get to our rankings. But
yeah.
if you guys have not seen this one, it's a wild ride. It's just a wild ride, and it's still going. So you have chance to catch up on it.
Yeah, I think looking at my rankings, I think I'm going to change 7 and 8. I'm reversing them now that I see it. I was thinking back, I'm like, that was the two that I was really like unsure of, and it's hard to rank these because each
I was
one
telling
is
Brian
like
before we recorded, it's like trying to rank episodes of a series. Like, how do you, if it was like Game of Thrones, like I'm trying to go back through a season of Game of Thrones.
Like how
and rank,
do you do that?
Like, how do I say episode 5 was better than episode 6? Or, like where do you draw the line? I mean, for me, I would have to think about this one. I think I do remember that I really liked 4. That would probably be my top. Because that's where this whole series really, really, truly changes direction.
Right.
So I think I would go with.
They seem to get improved by and that's like a little spoiler alert for my rankings. I feel like they get better and better as they go along in a weird way. And actually now, see, the problem is they're so similar. Like now I'm looking at 3. I'm like, why did I have 3 where it is? And why did I have 5 where 5 is now? I can't remember. Like,
it's hard for me to say.
It's really so. Like this ranking could be one of the possibly the most fluid rankings or everything. Like that's why the only reason I'm really upset that I just can't part of me feels like I may just suck it up, and when the 9th one comes out, just buy 1 through 8 because you can buy them digitally. You can own them digitally.
Yeah.
They're like about $10. $10 a shot, and maybe when the 9th one comes out, the other ones will drop in price. I think the first one you can buy for like $5. But that's the one that's usually free. The first one is usually free. Again, in itself, which is such a genius move. Let's make the first one free.
I would. It's gonna be hard for me to rank these on the fly because I didn't rank them beforehand. I will say I'm just gonna talk about it in general. My ranking. Yeah. So I remember I really liked 4 because that's where the whole series changed direction. That would be near the top, if not the top. I really liked 1. Because I watched that one before I even knew this was a whole series. And I really just liked it for what it was as a standalone. I thought it was well done, even though it didn't break a lot of ground. I thought it was well done for a found footage movie done.
I know, now you're making me question, why did I put 1 so low? I think it's just, one could be up a little higher.
There's no way I could put Blackwell Ghost 1 at the bottom like you have it. But there's some in there in the middle that I think would be more towards the bottom. I think you could put maybe
honestly, 5. I could flip 1 and you know what? Now that I'm looking at it, I think I would flip 1 and 3.
Yeah, because some of these are like
I think 1's going to be up a little higher. Now that I'm looking at this and just talking about it with you, has changed some of it. So,
but sometimes you'll have to me 4 and 5 are 5 is just kind of a continuation of 4. But it's not really breaking a lot of new ground. So that one would go farther down the list for me.
That's where my 5 is down a little bit lower.
That would be lower.
Yeah, I think now 5, basically 1 is now towards the middle where it should be because I don't think I give enough respect on 1. And but at the same time, it's kind of his own fault because he made such a compelling narrative that as you find out more and more, you like the series more. And the fact that I just watched it and it's all fresh in my head could be why this ranking is the way it is. Because I watched 1 the longest ago, so.
But I watched 8 the most recently ago, and I would put 8 towards the bottom for me.
I you know why I liked 8? Because I think 8 got to such a fever pitch and kind of had a little bit of a finality feel to it, but yet also leaves you with a cliffhanger for another whole new realizing all you've watched is now just kind of the middle,
Yeah, but I just felt like it was more of a continuation of 7 and it didn't really break any new ground. So to me, it was eh.
Oh yeah, it didn't break any new ground. I think, but then again, it's like I said, it's 8 is where it is now because I think the way I watched it is also, it's just, it's tricky. But I mean, I see your point. That's the thing. I think in this is probably one of these things where it's almost impossible to rank, honestly. It's it also could be 8 just because it's the most recent one I did watch and I was was so excited for it. And now I'm and I remember now because now that I watched this whole series the way I just did, now I'm it's almost as if 8 is number 1 for me in a weird way where it's I can't now. This is the first time where I'm caught up and I said, I can't wait for the next one. kind of thing. So I think there's that glow bit of
Yeah.
8 that's in there for the way I watched it.
I don't know.
think is the
I'm gonna take the rare occasion of not ranking these because I
Yeah.
can't.
I
I
know.
find it too
Yeah, I know it's
difficult to do.
yeah. I'll just give you my quick rankings. Like the reason why Tim said this because I had 8 at number 1 because but
Yeah.
yeah, but like number 8 in order was I was like 2, number 7 was 3, number 6 was 5, and this is where I moved up number 5. I went to number 1 because I had number 1 at 7, and I'm like, the more I think about that, like that's not showing enough respect of the series that like came in there. But I think it's because 4 really hooked me, so it wasn't 1 that hooked me into the series, if that makes sense. Just 1 was like I had to do. So I think that's where it was. Number 4 was 6, and I think 6 could technically, honestly, I could see myself flipping 6 and and 8 and making 4 number 1. That's the thing. It's like it's so different, but 6 was so good because I think it's where you really where you kind of really got into the guys to Turner's life with his where you saw where his wife passed away. You really got emotion, and now
It also
they're
took a break from
stakes. Yeah.
it took a break from the location that was established in 3, 4, and 5, which I kind of like 6 because it kind of did something a little different.
Yeah. Yeah, and see,
And then
like 7, I maybe
returned.
7, I could have lowered a little bit. Maybe 6 should flip over 7. Now just talking about it, it's like it's hard because I was
Yeah.
trying to put them on along. But 4, I have for 2 and 1, I have 4 at number 2 and 8 is number 1. That could easily be flipped. 4, I think overall, if I had to like gun to my head, I probably maybe say 4 was still the best, even though I ranked it at number 2 right now. I think it's something I have to like maybe think back in another week and then go back to it and see if I can remember. It's just hard. It's a hard series to remember what happens in each one because they're so similar.
Yeah, because they are very similar. For me, I would probably put 4 at number 1, and then right behind it, I would have probably number 1. Yeah, I might even put number 1 and 2 because I really liked the original premise of him investigating a haunting. As much as I like the true crime piece of it, to me, like the real core horror part of the series was the ghost stuff, and that he goes away from that completely. And then after that, it would be some combination of all the true crime set that came out. But anyway, whatever. You guys, I think if you guys just run through the series, you'll enjoy it regardless. Somehow we end up talking an hour about this, which maybe we could have broken it up.
We did talk about it is 8 movies.
Yeah.
And it is a story that's still evolving in the narrative form. So it's like there's going to be more of this. Like, I almost think when the 9th one comes out, we need to make it a priority. It's got to like jump whatever we're doing at that point. Make that the episode. Get Jeff on it.
We got to get
round table going. We'll do like a little
I'm dying to hear his thoughts on this series
because I really want to talk with him about it.
He's got me to watch it on Twitter when he started just talking it up. He's the one that got me to actually finally shell out the money and rent all these.
And the thing is, Jeff is he's so infectious. Like he's like I know we say this, but like I feel like we don't say it enough, even though we say it a lot. Is like it's just infectiousness of what it does for the horror community. He's like the heart of it, like at least in our big circle of things, and it's just because I think like he loves like these, and he gets so excited that he gets you excited for it. And he's rarely ever, I don't think he's ever steered me wrong. Like, I don't think there's ever anything that he got me to watch that I said, what was he talking about here? Like, what did he see in this? Like, everything he's got me to.
He is also one of those people that will find the best in every movie.
Yeah.
Which
I Halloween Ends, Tim.
I know, like even Halloween Ends. Which I couldn't go that far. I try to do that. I really do try to do that. I know,
and I've tried to see every angle from that thing.
I think you would agree that Brian and I, in general, are pretty positive and lenient towards most movies. We try to find the good versus dwelling on the bad. But Jeff takes it to a whole other level. And I'm not saying that. I'm not implying that he thinks every movie is good, regardless. I'm just saying he has a talent for finding the best of each movie, which is a rare.
Because there's very few movies where there's very few movies where there's like nothing to like about it. Like there's got to be something that is like a factor. Whether the movie as a whole is a dud and you don't like it, there's got to be like usually there's either a cool performance, or in horror we get the pleasure of a cool kill, or an actor you like is in it, still, and it just, even though, maybe it's not their best performance, they're in it, so you feel a connection to it. There's always, like, I mean, granted, through this 365 challenge, or 366 this year, I've definitely found some ones where that's really hard to find.
It
And
is.
it,
So
but
sometimes.
I use that. I use our Emily slogan. It's just not for me. Or, I'll say, like, I would have really wanted to like this. It just did not like it. I sorry. I did not, wasn't my type of movie. It wasn't for me.
Well, there's
And
the old adage, don't be defined by what you hate, be defined by what you love. So
right,
I
yeah,
think Jeff is one of those people that's definitely defined by what he loves, not what he
yeah.
hates, which is a
Yeah,
good thing.
like, and and it's funny, the Jeff multiverse or universe, it is too, is like, 'cause says, the guy, Mr. Wilson, that we talked to a lot in there too. He's like, he's like me. He likes wrestling. He's into movies. He got me to, like, to watch that little Rust series, that little, like, trilogy that's on
Which I still
Tubi.
need to watch, by the
Yeah,
way.
you
Yeah.
would like that. And those are, like, I probably would have never watched those otherwise. Or the biggest, I mean, next to this, the biggest thing Jeff got us into has got to be the Isaac Rodriguez films, which I
hmm
love every one of them. His latest one, did you see the latest one, Vischer?
Yeah, it's still on my list. I haven't watched it
Yeah,
yet.
that one is another good one. I mean, he's another guy that just has a talent to come out with these amazing found footage movies. And, and they're all, like, kind of unique in their own way. And it's really cool. It's just, so, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess to summarize Blackwell, it's like, it's one of these things that, like, I think you really have to see it to form your own opinion. I think everyone's going to have their own personal connection to it in a way. They're going to find something they like with it. But I guarantee you, if you just give it a chance and see the series through, there's no way you cannot get yourself invested in some way in that.
And
It's like,
I would also say approach it with an open mind. Don't approach it as strictly horror in terms of jump scares and frightening things happening. Just approach it for what it is.
yes,
A journey with a filmmaker through a mystery, and I think that's the best way to get the most appreciation
yeah,
out of this, and what Turner Clay has done here. But yeah, so that was our coverage of the Blackwell Ghost. I know it was kind of maybe sometimes a little all over the place, but honestly,
yeah,
I don't know how you talk about this series without jumping all over the place. It
yeah.
really is
There,
that kind of a crazy, epic
yeah.
ride.
And I think because the story's not done, it makes it even harder, because
Yeah,
it's continuing. There's more to come. It's not something you can just go by movie and go through like a normal movie, because it's not.
yeah.
It's more episodic TV documentary like we said, and two, it's just the whole story really takes place over a relatively short period of time that we've spanned, like, what, 6-7 years over, I think, right, or something.
Yes,
So
7 years.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, it's really hard to go movie by movie, and I don't think we would have done it justice, honestly, that way. I think it would have made it. I think we would have, like, maybe turned people off who hadn't
I
seen
think
it
you
if we
could
did it
have,
that
and I
way.
don't know, I haven't looked. I think you could have an entire podcast about this series
Oh yeah, I
easily.
wonder if there is one. I think I see, like, there's ones, but I think it was like I think it was just a mini thing they did. There was like a mini Blackwell Ghost podcast. But yeah, oh, you totally could easily just
I could
do
see
that.
doing an episode for each movie, but like
Yeah,
really deep diving into every aspect of it, which obviously we don't have time to do
yeah,
on our summer
we can.
slaycation. But
Yeah,
I could see you definitely doing that. So you guys give this one a chance. I know it's kind of a bummer that you can only rent it through Amazon, but hey, look at it this way: you're helping this guy out that made this kind of brilliant
yeah. Yeah.
thing.
Well,
So
here's a
it's
way.
kind of
I'll
cool.
give you a hint on a nice way to do it. If you're an Amazon shopper and you order multiple things, send it, ask for them in the same box, and don't necessarily get it that next day like you want, and you get I think you get like a $3 video credit. So, because I was buying
Yeah,
them, but I think I ended up getting, I think, like $5 or $6. It was credit that we had, like, from Julie's purchases that were on our account. That basically got, so one was, I think, almost free. So there's ways to get around it, of course, or if someone gives you an Amazon gift card, shoot, hey, maybe that's what you do with it. Instead of buying something physically,
yeah.
buy the whole Blackwell Ghost series.
I kind of did it. I think I did it over just like a period of time, so I wasn't like shelling out $50 at once. I think I did. I watched them fairly in close proximity, but not right one on top of each other. So it was like $2 here, $3 there, $5 there. I didn't really like hit me in the pocketbook too bad.
Yeah. So this is one where Tim and I did not save money together. We were not a pretty good team.
We're not a pretty good team.
Not in this case, but
all right, guys. So we are done with Summer Slaycation. We will be back next. I don't know what's going on. I know last episode we talked about we got possible interviews coming up. We got haunt stuff coming up. I've got trip reports. I just got back from Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. I got to talk about. So we've got a lot of content in the pipeline. Of course, we're getting ready to hit our October horror movie challenge, which we're going to try to get deep early.
Into. And I found a couple ones that are like, so far as I've been doing through it, I feel like it's not challenging enough, but there's some like obscure ones that might be more fun than challenging. So I really need to ramp up the challenge. I think I'm trying to find that like couple of ones, like, how each year there's those ones that are just like, people are going to scream when they look at it. I haven't quite got that one yet, but there's some fun ones, I think, so far that I did.
Which I think is okay. Take a look. I mean, you got to have some challenges in there, but at the same time, you want them to be like realistically doable. I know we've had
that one we came up with. Remember, I came up earlier in the year. The one you'll see it and you'll remember which one it is because you could see it's in the shared file, so you could start looking already. You'll see one that will be fun. You know what I wanted to do, but it's probably too late to do now because I would have had this thing done a while. But maybe we'll do like a special kind of like we do the little preview show, but maybe we'll make it like star-studded this year. Like we'll have guests come on and like read the objectives or something, make cool. It really fun. Yeah. I think we know enough friends now, that could do it.
All right, guys. So we'll see you back here next week. Take care.
See ya.